The sea was a flat, gray sheet under the morning sky. It stretched out from the rocky shore until it met the clouds. Ji-hun stood on the wet sand, his boots sinking slightly with each step. He pulled on the thick rope, hand over hand, dragging his small boat higher onto the beach. The net inside held a few silver fish that flashed in the dim light. It was not a big catch, but it was enough. He turned and looked back at the house. It was a simple place, white paint peeling in the salt wind, with a small, neat garden. Smoke curled from the chimney. Emija was awake. He allowed himself a small smile before heaving the final length of rope over a post. His sister stood at the kitchen window, her hands pressed against the glass. When she saw him look, she waved, a quick, bright movement. Ji-hun lifted a hand in return. He gathered the fish in a bucket and started up the path. Inside, the house was warm. The smell of rice and ginger filled the air. Mija was at the stove, stirring a pot of soup with intense focus. She was 24, but her face held a child's open wonder. Her world was small and she liked it that way. It was made of the garden, her brother's stories, and the birds that came to the feeder outside her window. "You caught fish," she said, not looking up from the pot. "A few," Ji-hun said, setting the bucket by the sink. He watched her for a moment. Her movements were careful, precise. She had memorized the recipe from their mother and would not change a single step. "The gulls were loud today. They must know our nets." "The black-backed gull has a hurt foot," Mija said. "I saw it on the big rock. I left some food." Ji-hun nodded. She noticed every small thing. While he saw the sea as a place to work, she knew every bird that flew over it, every change in the tide pools. After their parents died years ago, his job had been to keep her safe and her world steady. He left the military to do just that. His strength was for carrying groceries and mending fences, not for fighting anymore. He was good at the quiet life. The day passed in gentle routines. Ji-hun worked in the vegetable patch behind the house, tying up tomato plants. Mija sat on the porch steps with her sketchbook, drawing the sparrows that fought over seeds. She would look up, her eyes tracking their flight, then back down to her paper, her pencil moving in soft strokes. "The big ship is coming back," she said suddenly in the late afternoon. Ji-hun straightened up, his back aching. He followed her gaze out to the horizon. For the past week, strange lights had been seen at night, and news on the radio spoke of signals from space. The government told people to stay calm. Ji-hun felt a knot form in his stomach. He didn't trust calm orders. "It might just be a plane, Mija." "No. It's too quiet, and it shines wrong." He trusted her eyes more than any news report. He walked to the porch and stood beside her, shielding his eyes from the sun. First, he saw nothing. Then, a speck appeared against the clouds. It did not move like a plane. It was utterly silent, descending in a smooth, straight line. It was a dull silver color, shaped like a teardrop. The knot in his stomach tightened. "Go inside," he said. His voice low. Mija gathered her pencils but lingered at the door. Ji-hun stood his ground, feeling like a soldier again, but without a weapon. The object grew larger. It was not huge, maybe the size of a bus, but its silence was terrifying. It passed over the water, causing not a single ripple, and came to a stop in the field just beyond their fence. An door opened. No ramp lowered. One moment the ship was there, and the next 3 figures stood in front of it. They seemed to simply appear. They were tall and slender, dressed in smooth gray clothes that had no seams. Their skin was pale, almost gray. They had 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, but the arrangement was just a little off, making them look like unfinished copies of people. The one in the lead stepped forward. His mouth moved. A voice came out, but it sounded like it was made of many voices speaking at once, flat and clear. Spoke in perfect Korean. "Greetings, we are the Galactic Accord. We mean no disruption." Ji-hun moved to stand directly in front of his porch door, where Mija watched. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice harder than he felt. "We are assessing this world for integration. Your cooperation is valued." The alien's eyes, dark and shiny like stones, scanned Ji-hun, then the house, then Mija. The gaze felt cold, like being measured for a box. You are Ji-hun, former military unit. Your physical and psychological resilience markers are high. How do you know my name? We have accessed your planetary networks. The information is basic. The alien said this without pride or insult. It was a fact. Your species is interesting. You have a great capacity for conflict. You also have a capacity for order. We are here to cultivate the order. The other two aliens stood perfectly still. One held a small device that glowed faintly. Ji-hun felt a wave of anger. This was his home. You need to leave. That is not the process, the lead alien said. There will be a gathering in your main population center in 3 days. Attendance is required for selected individuals. You are selected. You will learn of the great harmony. The alien made a slight motion with its hand. A thin, clear card shot out from its sleeve and landed at Ji-hun's feet. On it, a time and a map were displayed. Integration is peaceful. Resistance is illogical. We will return. Without another word, the three figures turned and walked back toward their ship. They did not climb into it. They simply reached its shadow and vanished. A moment later, the silver teardrop rose without a sound and shot into the sky, disappearing in a blink. Ji-hun stood frozen, the cool sea breeze chilling the sweat on his neck. He looked down at the card. The time was ticking down. 71 hours 59 minutes and 58 seconds. 71:59:57. The soft touch on his arm made him jump. Mija was beside him, looking at the spot where the ship had been. She was not scared. She was curious. They weren't like the birds, she said softly. They didn't belong here. Ji-hun picked up the card, his fingers trembling with suppressed rage. He looked at his sister's calm, open face, then at the empty sky. He had built a quiet life from the ruins of a noisy one. Now, the quiet had been shattered by something worse than noise. It had been shattered by a terrible, silent order. He put his arm around Mija's shoulders and guided her back inside, closing the door firmly against the gray afternoon. News came slowly to the coast. The old television in the corner of the living room showed images from the cities. The silver teardrop ships hung in the sky over Seoul, Busan, Daegu. They did not attack. They simply waited. Reporters spoke with nervous voices about the Galactic Accord. They repeated the message of peace and integration. Ji-hun watched with Mija sitting quietly beside him. She had a bird feather in her hands, turning it over and over. On the screen, an Accord spokesperson stood with government leaders. The alien's face was calm, its words perfect. It spoke of shared knowledge, an end to sickness, a place in a greater community. The human leaders nodded, but their eyes were scared. They are lying, Mija said suddenly. Ji-hun looked at her. How do you know? Their eyes don't move when they talk, like the dead fish on the ice. The words are just sounds. He hadn't noticed. He had been listening to the words, feeling the cold dread they carried. Mija saw the mechanics, not the meaning. He turned off the television. The silence in the house felt heavy. The next morning, the notice came. It was not a card this time. A voice, the same flat multi-voice, spoke from a small drone that hovered outside their window. It repeated the time and place for the gathering. It added new words. Compliance ensures safety for your unit. Non-compliance risks designation. Ji-hun threw a rock at the drone. It darted away, unaffected. He tried to go about his day. He fixed a loose shutter. He checked his fishing nets. But his mind was on the ticking clock. Mija followed him, a silent shadow. She could feel his worry. It filled the house like a smell. On the second day, a black government car came up the dirt road. A young official in a rumpled suit got out. He looked tired. He held a tablet. Kim Ji-hun? The official asked. Yes. The man nodded, not meeting Ji-hun's eyes. You are confirmed for the selection muster tomorrow at 10. Transportation will be provided. He swiped on his tablet. You are categorized under resilience and adaptive predation. You must report. What does that mean? Adaptive predation? Ji-hun asked, the strange words bitter in his mouth. The official finally looked up. His face was pale. It's their taxonomy. They've analyzed everything. Military records, sports, even hunting licenses. They're looking for a certain type. The strong. The survivors. The fighters. He lowered his voice. They call it the biological tithe. Every region has a quota. They say it's for study. To understand our unique capacities. He said the last part like he was quoting from a bad script. And if I don't go? The official's eyes flicked toward the house, where Mija stood in the doorway. They profile the whole unit. Family. Dependents. They say non-compliance removes protection status. It's not a request, Mr. Kim. It's a harvest. The man got back in his car and drove away. Leaving a cloud of dust, Ji-hun felt the world shrink to a single, terrible point. They weren't taking volunteers. They were taking specimens. They had looked at his life, at his service, and saw a thing they wanted to collect. A hunter. Predator. They didn't see a man who fished and grew tomatoes for his sister. They saw a set of useful traits. He walked back to the porch and sat heavily on the steps. Mija sat next to him, her shoulder touching his. She didn't ask questions. She waited. I have to go tomorrow, he said finally, his voice rough. For how long? He looked at the sea. I don't think you come back from a tithe, Mija. She was quiet for a long time. A sparrow landed on the fence post, cocked its head, and flew off. Then you should not go, she said, as if it was simple. If I don't, they might take you instead. Or worse, they said they would remove protection. I don't need their protection, she said. But he knew she did. The world was hard for her. He was her bridge across all the confusing gaps. That evening, he did not make plans to run. He knew their technology could find him. Instead, he made plans for her. He wrote down bank account numbers. He showed her again how to lock the heavy metal bolt on the cellar door, where the safe place was during a storm. He told her the name of his old friend in the next town who would check on her. He cooked her favorite meal, a rich stew. They ate in silence. The setting sun painted the clouds orange and purple. It was beautiful. It felt like a goodbye. Will they hurt you? Mija asked, pushing her food around her bowl. They said it's for study. They probably won't hurt me. He tried to sound sure. He was not sure at all. Studying is for birds and plants, she said. Not for people. After she went to sleep, Ji-hun sat at the kitchen table. He took out a pen and a single piece of paper. He wanted to write a long letter to explain everything. But the words wouldn't come. All he could see was her needing him and him not being there. Finally, he drew a single 5-pointed star. It was what he used to draw on the dusty lid of her lunchbox when she was small. It meant he was thinking of her. He propped the paper against the sugar bowl. He looked in on her. She was asleep, one hand under her cheek. She looked peaceful. His heart felt like a stone in his chest. He left before dawn. He could not bear a last goodbye. He packed nothing, took only the clothes he wore. He walked down the dark path to the road where the transport was supposed to come. He would go. He would be a hunter one last time, to protect the only thing that ever mattered. The sky began to lighten in the east, gray and cold. He did not look back at the sleeping house. The house was too quiet when Mija woke. She lay in bed for a while, listening. She could always hear him in the morning. The clank of the kettle, the soft hum of the radio news, the scrape of a chair on the kitchen floor. Now, there was only the sound of the wind against the window and the distant cry of a gull. She got up and walked through the empty rooms. His boots were not by the door. His jacket was gone from the hook. A cold feeling, strange and heavy, settled in her stomach. She saw the paper on the table, the single hand-drawn star. She touched the lines of ink with her finger. He was gone. She made tea because it was what you did in the morning. She sat at the table and held the warm cup, looking at the star. The numbers on the kitchen clock moved forward. 9, 10. He had said the transport would come at end at exactly 10. She heard the sound. It was not the rumble of a bus or a car. It was a low, soft hum. She went to the window. A sleek, Gray vehicle hovered at the end of their path. It had no wheels. A door slid open and two figures stepped out. They were not the gray-suited aliens. These were humans, a man and a woman, wearing dark uniforms with a patch of the earth and a silver teardrop on the sleeve. They walked up to the house. Mija opened the door before they could knock. The woman had a tight smile. "Good morning. We are here for Kim Ji-hun, for his transport to the selection center." Mija looked past them to the empty vehicle. "He is not here," she said. The smile faded. The man checked a device on his wrist. A faint light scanned the front of the house. "His biometric signature is not present. Are you certain? It is a legal requirement that he present himself." "He is not here," Mija repeated. The cold feeling was spreading through her. The two officials exchanged a look. The man's voice became harder. "Do you know his location? Assisting in noncompliance is a serious offense." Mija shook her head slowly. She did not know where he was. She only knew he was gone, and he had left a star. The woman stepped closer, trying to look past Mija into the house. "Miss, you are his sister. You are listed as a dependent. His compliance ensures your continued safety under the Accord's protection. If he is evading, that protection is withdrawn. Do you understand?" Mija understood the words, but they felt wrong. Protection should not be a trade. You didn't trade people. You kept them safe because it was right. She said nothing. After a few more questions that got no different answer, the officials turned and walked back to their vehicle. Their voices were low and tense. The door closed and the craft rose silently into the air. Turning back toward the town, Mija stood in the doorway for a long time. The sun was warm on her face, but she felt cold inside. She thought about what to do. Her brother had taught her routines for when he was away fishing for a long time. She decided to follow the routine. She washed her bowl and cup. She went into the garden to check the plants. The tomatoes needed water. As she worked the pump handle, she saw it. A small, glinting thing in the soil near the back fence. She walked over and knelt down. It was a silver pin, thin as a needle, with a tiny red light at its tip. The light was off. She had never seen it before. She picked it up carefully. It was cool to the touch. She remembered the official scanning his wrist device. She remembered the aliens with their calm, measuring eyes. This was one of their things. They had put it here. She held it in her palm. They had been watching. They knew the garden. They knew the house. The thought did not scare her. It was a fact, like knowing a hawk sometimes watched the chicken coop. You had to know where the hawk was. She put the pin in her pocket. She finished watering the garden. She went inside and made lunch. The house felt bigger and emptier with every silent hour in the afternoon. She took her sketch pad to the porch. She tried to draw a magpie, but her lines were shaky. She kept listening for his footsteps on the gravel. She looked down at her pocket where the silver pin was. She took it out again. The tiny red light suddenly blinked on. Once, twice. Then it went dark again. Mija froze. It was not just a thing they had left. It was a thing that was still connected. It was listening. Or maybe it was calling. She stood up and walked quickly inside. She went to the cellar door, the one with the heavy bolt her brother had shown her. She opened it and went down the cool, dark steps. In the corner was an old metal toolbox. She opened it. Inside, among the wrenches and nails, was a small, strong magnet her brother used to find lost screws in the boat. She took the pin and pressed it against the magnet. She left it there, inside the metal box, and closed the lid. Back upstairs, the silence felt different. It was not just empty. It was waiting. She looked at the clock. It had only been hours, but it felt like days. She was alone, and the people who took things were coming back. She knew this the way she knew a storm was coming by the color of the sky. They would not believe her. They would look for him, and they would find only her. She sat at the kitchen table, across from the paper with the star. She folded her hands in her lap and waited. She would follow the routine until she couldn't. She would be where she was supposed to be. She was not a hunter. She was just Mija. But she was all that was left here, in this quiet house by the sea, and that meant something. It meant she was the one they would have to talk to. A week passed. The rhythms of the house changed. Mija woke. She ate. She tended the garden. She watched the birds. She did everything the same, but the silence was a new, solid thing in every room. It was not a peaceful quiet. It was the quiet of waiting. She found more of the silver pins. One was stuck to the underside of the windowsill. Another was in the dirt by the front step. Each time she found one, she took it to the cellar and put it in the metal box with the magnet. The red lights on them blinked sometimes, then went dark. She never saw or heard the drones that must have placed them. It was like a game where only one player knew the rules. She thought about her brother every day. She thought about the star he drew. He was thinking of her. She hoped he was safe. She hoped he was far away on the water, where he loved to be. On the 8th morning, they came back. Mija was in the back garden. She was not drawing today. She was working with her hands. A young seagull lay on a soft cloth on the bench. Its wing was bent wrong. It had been fighting with other gulls and had fallen onto the rocks. She had seen it from the window and gone out to get it. She held the bird gently but firmly. It struggled for a moment, then went still, its black eye watching her. She had done this before. She took 2 thin, straight sticks from the pile she had prepared. She took a roll of clean bandage from her apron pocket. Her movements were slow and careful. She focused only on the wing, on aligning the small bones, on wrapping the bandage to hold the sticks in place. The world shrank to her hands and the frightened bird. She did not hear them approach. There was no sound of a car or footsteps on gravel. She only felt a shadow fall over the bench. Mija looked up. 2 figures stood there, blocking the low sun. They were the gray-suited ones, the aliens from the Accord. They were exactly as she remembered, tall and pale, their faces smooth and expressionless. Their dark eyes were fixed on her. The lead one spoke. His voice was that same flat chorus. Female, the hunter, Ji-hun. His location is required. Where is he? Mija did not answer right away. She finished tying the bandage, making sure the knot was secure but not too tight. The gull lay still, breathing fast. She set it down carefully in a small box lined with more cloth. Only then did she stand up, wiping her hands on her apron. She looked at the alien. She remembered its words from before. Integration. Harmony. She remembered the fear in her brother's eyes. She remembered the empty chair at the table. He is gone, she said. Her own voice sounded small but clear in the still garden. Gone is not a location, the alien said. His head tilted slightly, like a curious bird. Our scans show his biological signature is absent from the planetary registry. He evaded the tithe. This is non-compliance. Who facilitated his escape? The alien looked past her, toward the house, as if expecting to see a man, a fighter, hiding behind the curtains. It was looking for a certain type of person. A person who made plans, who fought, who hid. Mija understood the question. They thought another hunter had helped him. They thought it took strength and violence to disappear. They did not think it could be done quietly. You took him, Mija said simply. You said he had to go. So he is gone. The second alien, who had been silent, raised a hand. A blue light fanned out from a ring on its finger. It passed over Mija, then over the garden, the house. The light felt cold on her skin. No secondary resilient signatures detected. No signs of forced extraction or conflict. The female shows elevated stress markers but no deception patterns. The lead alien focused on Mija again. You are his unit, his dependent. Your safety was linked to his compliance. His choice endangers you. You will tell us the network he used. You will tell us where your hunter is now. The words were logical, cold. They saw a transaction that had failed. They did not see a sister. They saw a broken piece of a system. Mija looked from the alien's stone-like eyes to the box where the injured gull rested. The bird was scared, but it was still. It was waiting for the world to become safe again. She felt the same. A strange calm settled over her. They were asking the wrong person. They were asking the wrong questions. They saw her as a thing that was left behind, a clue to the puzzle of the missing hunter. They did not see her as part of the puzzle itself. She took a slow breath. The salt air filled her lungs. She thought of her brother's lessons, not the loud ones about fighting, but the quiet ones. How to watch, how to wait, how to see what others missed. She took a single step forward. It was not a threatening move. It was just a step, putting herself fully in their line of sight. She was not hiding behind the bench or the bird or her silence anymore. "You are asking the wrong question," she said. The alien stared. Its expression did not change, but the air seemed to grow stiller. "Explain." Mija did not explain yet. She just stood there, a young woman in a garden with dirty hands, meeting the gaze of a creature from the stars. The hunter was gone, but she was here, and for the first time, she saw that this might be the most important fact of all. The alien did not move. It stood, a statue of gray cloth and pale skin, waiting. His partner kept the scanning light on Mija. The blue glow made the garden look strange and cold. "You are asking for the hunter," Mija said again, her voice steady. "You are asking where he is. But you are not asking how he left." The lead alien processed this. The method of evasion is secondary. The location of the specimen is primary. Who helped him? Mija looked at the house, then back at the aliens. She thought about the pins in the metal box. She thought about the silent drone watching from the sky. They saw tools and technology. They saw plans made by people who thought like they did. "No one helped him," she said. "I helped him." For the first time, she saw a flicker in the alien's eyes. Not an emotion, but a rapid adjustment like a machine recalculating. "You are not rated for tactical support. Your cognitive and physical profiles are non-viable for such operations." The words were not meant to be cruel. They were a report. To them, she was a thing that could not do this work. Mija nodded slowly. "Yes, I am not like him. I do not fight. I watch." She pointed a finger, not at the aliens, but at the sky near the roof of her house. "The small silver ship that watches comes every evening when the sun is low, from the west. It moves behind the cloud that always sits over the mountain. It is quiet for 20 minutes. Then it goes." The aliens were silent. The scanner's light remained on her. "I watch," she continued. "The men in the uniforms came 3 times to look at the house after my brother left. They came at morning, at noon, and late before dark. They did not come at night. They are afraid of the dark here." She took another step closer to the lead alien. It did not retreat. It was studying her now like a new kind of insect. "You put the small pins in the ground," she said. "To listen. You put one by the step, one on the window, one in the garden where the tomatoes are. Their lights blink, but metal boxes stop the blinking. I know. My brother kept tools in a metal box. The radio inside would go quiet." She reached into her apron pocket. She did not pull out a pin. She pulled out a small, dry leaf. On it was a pattern of tiny dots, made with the tip of a burnt stick. "This is the pattern of the lights on your big ship," she said, holding it up. "The first night it came, I drew it. The green lights flash in this order. The red lights never flash. They are always on. That means it is listening, not just watching." The alien's hand moved almost imperceptibly. The second alien lowered its scanner. They both stared at the leaf, then at Mija. "You gathered data," the lead alien stated.
I watched, Mia corrected.
"You look for hunters who run. I am not a hunter. I am a person who sees. When you look for a loud enemy, you do not hear the quiet one. Explain the evasion." The alien demanded, its flat voice gaining a faint edge. Mija looked toward the sea. "You tested him when you first came. You scanned him. You put something small inside his arm when you shook his hand. I saw the light. You thought it was a marker so you could always find him. My brother thought it was a tracker, too. He tried to cut it out with a knife, but it was too deep." She looked back at the alien. "I read books about birds. They put bands on birds to track them. Sometimes the bands are bad. They make the bird sick. There are plants that can make a tracker sleep. Not break it, just make it quiet for a while. You can find them in the hills. You make a paste. You put it on the skin over the tracker. It does not hurt. It just makes the signal go to sleep. Like the pins in the metal box. The garden was utterly silent. Even the wind had died down. The night of the big storm, Mija said. The wind was loud. The rain was thick. Your watching ship did not come. The men in uniforms did not come. That was the night he left. I showed him the path through the rocks that the otters use. It is under the water when the tide is high. It is open when the tide is low. It goes to the old cove where the ruined boathouse is. There was a boat there. A friend's boat. Not on any list. He took it. He went into the storm where your eyes could not see. She finished. Her heart was beating fast, but her hands were still. She had never said so many words at once to anyone but her brother. The lead alien stood motionless for a long time. Its dark eyes were fixed on her. It was not looking for a hunter anymore. It was looking at her. Really looking. Your profile was incorrect. It said, not to her, but as a statement to the air. You were categorized as non-essential. A dependent. This was an error. Mija said nothing. She just waited. The alien spoke again, its voice the same, but the words were new. You facilitated the evasion. You provided intelligence on our patterns. You neutralized the biomarker. You planned the extraction route. You are the architect of the noncompliance. Mija shook her head. I did not plan. I just saw what was there. And I helped my brother. The alien took a step closer. It was now very near. It looked down at her from its great height. You are telling us that the hunter was you? Mija met its gaze. In that moment, she was not the girl who drew birds. She was the girl who mended them. She was the one who stayed when the strong one left. She was the quiet in the empty house. Yes, she said. Me. The word hung in the air between them. Me. It was a small sound, but in the quiet garden, it was as loud as a stone dropping into still water. The lead alien did not move. His partner, the one with the scanner, let its hand fall slowly to its side. The blue light vanished. For a long moment, the only sounds were the distant sea and the soft rustle of leaves in the garden. The aliens were communicating, but not with words. A subtle flicker passed between their eyes, almost too fast to see. You executed a complex evasion protocol, the lead alien said. Its voice had not changed, but the words came slower, as if it was choosing each one with new care. I helped my brother, Mija repeated. It was not complex to her. It was just a series of small, true things. See the pattern. Know the plants. Remember the path. You used observation against us. You used our own patterns. You used biological knowledge to counter technology. The alien was not asking. It was building a new file in its mind, and Mija was the subject. You were not detected because you were not a threat. Your profile was below notice. Mija looked at the box where the injured gull lay. It was resting now, its head tucked under its bandaged wing. It was vulnerable and so it was overlooked. That was its safety. She understood that. You look for hunters who are loud, she said softly. You look for strength that fights. My brother has that strength. But that is not the only strength. The tide is strong. It does not fight the rocks. It goes around them. It waits. And then it takes them away, grain by grain. The alien considered this. It looked from her face to her hands, still stained with dirt from the garden. Your actions were predatory. They were calculated to protect your unit by removing a resource from our reach. This is a form of hunting. The word felt wrong to Mija. Hunting was what the gulls did to the crabs. It was fast and had teeth. What she did was slow and had patience. It was caring, she corrected. I did not hunt him. I saved him. To save is to take from one who would take. The alien replied. Its logic was a closed circle. It is the same shape of action. You are a different kind of predator. A silent kind. We did not have this category. The second alien finally spoke, its voice identical. The specimen Jihan's value is in his physical resilience. His capacity for conflict. That is a known quantity. This new data suggests the protective instinct in your species is a primary predatory driver. It is not tied to physical form. It is cognitive. It can exist in any vessel. Mija did not understand all the words, but she understood the meaning. They were seeing her now, not as a broken piece but as a whole new thing. A thing that was dangerous because it did not look dangerous. "What is your purpose now?" the lead alien asked. It was not a threat. It was a genuine question. "Your hunter is gone. Your unit is broken. Why remain?" Mija looked at her house. She thought of the kitchen where they ate, the porch where she drew, the cellar where she hid the pins. This was her place. It was not broken. It was waiting. "I am still here," she said. "This is my home. The garden needs water. The birds come to the feeder. My brother is safe. That was the work. The work is done. Now I do the other work. The maintenance of the territory," the alien said, almost to itself. "Even in absence, the behavior continues." The aliens looked at each other again. The silent conversation lasted several seconds. Then the lead alien turned its full attention back to Mija. It did not come closer. If anything, it seemed to draw itself up a fraction taller. It was a posture of reassessment. "You have provided necessary data," it said. "The evasion of the specimen Ji-hun will be logged. No further action will be taken against this location or your person." This was a dismissal. They were leaving. But they were leaving differently than they had arrived. They were not leaving in anger or in victory. They were leaving in confusion. A state they were not designed to feel. Mija simply nodded. She turned her back on them. It was not a gesture of disrespect, but of conclusion. The conversation was over. She walked to the bench and carefully picked up the box with the gull. She could feel their eyes on her as she carried it toward the house, moving with the same slow care she had used all along. The door. She stopped and looked over her shoulder. The two gray figures were still standing in her garden, surrounded by tomato plants and herbs. They looked out of place, like stones in a soft bed. "You should leave now," she said, her voice quiet but clear. "My brother is safe, and I am still here." She did not wait to see if they obeyed. She went inside, into the dim coolness of the kitchen. She placed the box with the bird on the table, next to the paper with the drawn star. She stood there for a moment, listening. She heard no sound from outside. No hum of an engine, no footsteps. When she finally looked out the window, the garden was empty. The aliens were gone. The only movement was the flutter of a sparrow's wing at the feeder. The quiet had returned. But it was a different quiet now. It was not the quiet of waiting. It was the quiet of a house that had been seen and had answered back. The gray craft did not rise into the sky with its usual silent speed. It moved away slowly, a dark smudge against the afternoon clouds, as if the thoughts inside it were heavy. Inside, the two Accord operatives did not speak at first. Their minds, linked to the ship's network, processed the encounter in a flood of data and cold logic. The lead operative reviewed the scan logs. It saw the girl's physiological readings again. Elevated heart rate, yes. Stress markers, yes. But no spikes associated with lies. The calm had been profound, deeper than the fear. It replayed her words. "I watched. I just saw what was there." It analyzed the leaf with the light pattern. The pattern was accurate. The deduction about listening versus watching was correct for their older model surveillance craft. It was a flawless, instinctive intelligence operation executed by a subject their filters had discarded. On the planet below, Mija sat at her kitchen table. The injured gull slept in its box. She looked at the drawn star on the paper. She wondered where her brother was on the wide sea. She hoped he saw birds. She picked up her pencil and on a clean sheet, she began to draw. She drew the garden. She drew the gull with its bandaged wing. She drew the two tall, gray figures standing among the tomatoes. She made their faces calm and their eyes dark. She included every detail she remembered. In the ship, the second operative spoke aloud, its voice echoing slightly in the sterile cabin. "The initial taxonomy is flawed. We categorized predatory adaptive strength as a physical and aggressive trait. This incident suggests it is a cognitive trait rooted in the protective bond. It is not about hunting for sustenance or dominance. It is about hunting for preservation of the social unit. The lead operative accessed the global database, pulled files on other evasions. A father in Argentina who disappeared with his children after being selected. An elderly former soldier in Finland who vanished from a locked room. In each case, the files noted a lack of forced entry, a lack of technological countermeasures. The solutions had seemed like mysteries or incompetence. Now, a new pattern emerged. Each selected individual had close bonds. Each had someone who was non-viable by Accord standards. A child, a sick spouse, a sibling like Mija. The strength is not in the individual, the lead operative stated. It is in the network. The network is often invisible to our profiling. It does not register as a threat because it does not appear strong. It appears weak. This is its camouflage. Down in the house, Mija finished her drawing. She studied it. It was true. She put it aside and went to make tea. The routine continued. Water in the kettle. Fire on the stove. The simple, normal sounds of a life continuing. The Accord ship reached high altitude. It began to transmit its report. The data stream was vast, but the conclusion was simple. It was a recommendation for a protocol change, marked as urgent, assessment of human subject, Mija, non-viable classification, forces reevaluation of projection model Hunter. Subject demonstrated high-level strategic evasion using observational intelligence, pattern recognition, and ecological knowledge. Tools minimal. Technology none. Motivation preservation of bonded unit. Conclusion: human predatory instinct is not a physical trait. It is a cognitive potential linked to emotional bonds. The capacity for high-level threat generation exists in all demographic classifications, not just those with physical resilience markers. The weak-looking may be the most effective hunters. Integration risk assessment. Extreme. Recommend immediate suspension of biological tithe. Recommend new model. Treat all human units as potential coordinated threat networks. The transmission ended. The ship set a course for its orbital station. The operatives sat in silence. Their mission was a success. They had gathered crucial data. But the success felt like a failure. They had been outmaneuvered by a concept they did not understand. As night fell, Mija took the box with the gull outside. The bandage was holding. The bird was alert. She set the box on the ground and opened the lid. For a moment, the gull did nothing. Then it stumbled out, its good wing flapping for balance. It looked at her with one black eye. Then it turned and hopped, then half ran, half flew into the gathering dusk, toward the cliffs and the sea. She watched it go. It was not fully healed. It was still vulnerable. But it was free and it was going home. She looked up at the sky. Stars were beginning to appear, pinpricks of light in the deep blue. Somewhere up there, the Accord was thinking about her. She did not know what they would decide. She only knew what she had decided days ago when her brother left. She would be here. She would tend to her place. She would see what was there. The report, now circulating among the Accord's High Council, caused a quiet uproar. Debates raged about resource allocation, about risk. The tithe was put on hold indefinitely. New scan parameters were drafted, trying to map the invisible bonds between humans to find these hidden networks. They would try. But Mija had shown them the core problem. You could not scan for a quiet mind. You could not profile a heart that loved silently. The greatest hunters were not the ones who roared. They were the ones who waited, who watched, and who would do anything with quiet, careful hands to protect what was theirs. In her garden. Mija went inside and closed the door. She bolted it. The sound was solid and final. She was alone, but she was not afraid. She had answered their question. Now they had to live with her answer.